I have two friends. One of them is kind of crazy. He has these intense mood swings that seem to come out of nowhere. He gets angry over the smallest of triggers, and he has these chaotic, unstable relationships, and he deals with all of this with substance abuse, self-harm, and constantly considers ending his life. And on the other hand, I have a friend who's completely normal. He always has a smile on his face. He's able to get good grades and do a good job at work. He's always calm, collected, and reasonable. So what is the difference between these two individuals? Why is one so functional and one so dysregulated? Is it perhaps some kind of genetic difference that makes one have better brain chemistry than the other? Is it perhaps some trauma in one of these individuals' past that causes them to act the way that they do? And the reality is that there is no difference between these two individuals. Because I'm not talking about two different people at all. I'm talking about one person. I'm talking about me. This is what it's like living with quiet borderline personality disorder, or BPD for short. Quiet BPD is a subtype of the borderline personality disorder diagnosis that encompasses individuals who have all the traits of BPD: the intense emotions, the anger outbursts, the unstable relationships, the substance use, the self-harm, the suicidal ideation, but they keep it hidden from the outside world. They're able to show up to work, do a good job, have a smile on their face, and be calm, collected. But if you follow them behind closed doors, you'll see them using knives and drugs to deal with the intense, overwhelming emotions that they constantly have to hold inside. BPD is a difficult mental illness to treat to begin with, but quiet BPD comes with its own unique set of challenges. And one of the biggest challenges that comes with quiet BPD is getting the diagnosis in the first place. Quiet BPD is an extremely atypical presentation of borderline personality disorder, so oftentimes individuals will either not be diagnosed with a mental health disorder because they're able to function so well, or if they are diagnosed, they'll get an incorrect diagnosis and struggle for years trying to figure out what's really going on. This was what my story was like. In 2018, 5 years ago, I was hospitalized due to a suicide attempt, and I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder. For years, this is what I thought I had, and I tried everything in the book to make my so-called depression and anxiety go away. I tried reading, I tried exercising, I was sleeping at the same time, waking up at the same time, I was doing CBT, individual therapy, group therapy, I was doing it all, and sometimes I'd be doing a little better. I'd have a 1 to 2 month period where I'd be happy, healthy, and thriving, but eventually, because I wasn't able to address the root cause of my mental illness, I would keep slipping back, regressing, having setbacks and relapses, and these kept getting worse and worse as the years went on, and longer until in my sophomore year of college, things started spiraling out of control. My substance abuse was completely out of my control. I was unable to manage my anxiety, and I was extremely suicidal every single day, and I knew something had to change. I didn't resonate with the symptoms of depression and anxiety. None of the remedies that I had tried had worked, so I knew there's something else going on. So I did more research. I talked to some of my friends who had borderline personality disorder, and I realized these are the symptoms that I really resonate with. And eventually, in October of 2022, I went to a psychiatrist and I got an official diagnosis of BPD. Once I got this diagnosis, it was a bit of relief because, contrary to popular belief, borderline personality disorder is one of the most treatable personality disorders out there. It has extremely high rates of success and remission, and this is thanks to largely in part due to a therapy called dialectical behavioral therapy, or DBT for short. DBT was developed by Dr. Marsha Linehan, who herself suffered from borderline personality disorder, and she originally designed it to help individuals who have a high likelihood of self-harm and suicide, e.g. the borderline personality disorder population. The therapy is so effective for individuals with BPD because it's comprised of 4 modules that target the specific things that people with BPD struggle with the most. Module 1 is interpersonal effectiveness, because people with BPD have a hard time communicating how they feel to other people, and their interactions with other people are where most of their distress comes from. Then we have emotional regulation to help them manage and bring their intense emotions under their control rather than having their emotions control them. Then we have distress tolerance for when those intense emotions get too intense to manage and to calm down on your own, and you just need to sit with them and not act on them until they go away. And we have mindfulness, which ties everything together by helping you become more aware of the negative behaviors and beliefs that you engage in that cause the consequences you wish to avoid. So what does this look like in practice? I can give you an example from my own life. Let's say that I'm driving down the highway and someone cuts me off aggressively. Because I have BPD, my emotions go from 0 to 100 like that. I'm mad. Why would he do that? He could have killed me. Doesn't he know what he's doing? God, I hate everyone who drives in Atlanta. I hate having to drive. Why do I have to do things that I don't want to do? I hate being alive. I hate doing this. I'll find myself turning to knives or to drugs in order to feel better. But with DBT, what I can do instead is turn to an ice pack. Using a skill called temperature regulation, I can take an ice pack, put it to my forehead. It activates my parasympathetic nervous system. And after 60 seconds of leaving the ice pack there, my emotional intensity has gone down to a point where I can manage how I'm feeling and not act on the intense emotions that I'm dealing with. DBT has been wonderful. It has helped me so much in becoming more mentally healthy and stable. However, it is not the only thing that has gotten me as far as I've gotten. The other big component of my success and my mental health recovery has been not giving up. With borderline personality disorder, it's hard just to be alive. 1 in 10 people with BPD will successfully kill themselves in their lifetime, and that's because dealing with the constant inner anguish, turmoil, and the self-hatred becomes impossible or seems impossible on many days. So how do you deal with it? How do you overcome this constant desire to give up, to end things, and how do you keep pushing forward? There are 2 things that I believe have really helped me continue to move forward, and that is 1, to reframe my perspective, and 2, to change my attitude and my definition of what success in mental health recovery looks like. So let's go over the first point. What does it mean to change your perspective? Oftentimes, even without mental illness, we all have good days, weeks, and months, and bad days, weeks, and months. And with mental illness, these bad weeks, these bad days, these bad months, they look like regressions, relapses, setbacks. We'll find ourselves hospitalized again. We'll find ourselves using the drugs that we swore we would never use again and again and again. So how do you manage those difficult emotions and how do you maintain hope? Because each time you have a setback, that voice in the back of your head that wants you to give up, it's amplified. It tells you, look, this is evidence you're never going to get better. You're never going to be able to make it out. Why do you keep trying? How do you fight that voice? The way that I fight it is by looking at the bigger perspective. Instead of focusing on that one bad month I had, or that one bad day, or that one bad week, I think about how far have I come from a year ago? How far have I come from 5 years ago when I was initially hospitalized for my first suicide attempt? And when I do that, it helps me see the progress that I've made because mental health progress is slow. When we look at the month-to-month scale, the week-to-week scale, and the day-to-day scale, we're not going to see much different happening. But when you zoom out and you remember how far you've come from where you used to be a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, it becomes much easier to stay hopeful because you can see the true progress that you've made and not get caught up in the small bumps along the way. Whenever I do this, I feel a lot better. Each time I have a setback, I remember where I was 5 years ago, how scared I was, how terrified I was. I would never have been able to come up on a stage like this and give a talk to a room full of strangers. It would have been impossible for me to have the relationships that I have, the strong connections I have with my family now. I would not be able to have the grades or the career I have. And the reason I'm here is because I didn't give up. Now on to the second point, which is about redefining what success looks like in mental health recovery. Success, oftentimes for those who struggle with mental illness, is seen as we have to be perfect. We have to be symptom-free. We can't have any bad days, and we can't relapse, we can't regress, and if we do, we're failures. But instead of thinking of mental health recovery like this, I like to think of success as simply still being here and still breathing. My belief is as long as you are breathing, there's more right with you than there is wrong with you. And keeping that mentality is what has helped me push through those setbacks, those regressions, and not see them as failures, but simply bumps in the road. Because the reality is mental health recovery is not an easy, smooth journey. It is full of ups and downs, misdiagnoses, underdiagnoses, incorrect treatments, correct treatments, and you never know what exactly is going to happen. The objective with recovering from mental illness is not to be perfect. It is just to keep moving forward and putting one foot in front of the other. I'd like to leave you all with a final quote that helps me get through those times when I'm in the middle of a setback, when I'm in the middle of a low, difficult period, and I feel like nothing is ever going to get better. The quote is about success. It goes something like this. Success is not about never falling down. Success is about falling down 7 times, but getting up for 8. Thank you.